Hey everybody, this is my new video about pricing pitfalls of contracting on different platforms. So while this is more specifically about platforms like Workmarket and FieldNation, I would like to point out that many of these same rules apply and these same issues apply to the same if you were to go directly under a different company versus using a platform. So a lot of these companies that will use these platforms to find work will also work directly with the right tech. So you could be that right tech and get plenty of work directly and cut out Workmarket and FieldNation. So those are just something to think about. Also, you might get friendly with another company yourself and realize, hey, they do operate in my area, and I know a guy that works there, maybe I know the owner, and I can get in and do some work for them that way. So this whole thing is about some of the differences between pricing with your direct clients and with your any sort of B2B work. So first off, I just want to point out that none of these numbers that I'm throwing at you are to be considered like numbers that you should rely on and trust. You need to do your own pricing research is what I'm saying. So I'm located in the Peoria, Illinois area, so what market pricing is for wherever you are is going to be different. So if you're also in central Illinois like me, then great. Then some of this research that I've done that I'm basically sharing on here will help you there. But if you're somewhere else, especially if you're not in downstate Illinois and you're up in Chicago, Chicago is very different. Things cost more, so these numbers are not going to apply to that area. So just be cognizant of what your hourly rate is, and know that whatever you do B2B has to be based on that. So yeah, so let's take a look at a few things. So again, those rates are going to be different. So if you're going to Workmarket, FieldNation, or another company to do work for them, the chances are they're already an IT company, they've already bid out the job, they've got the contract, and now they just need somebody to do the work. So it's not the same thing as you going out to that particular company and billing your full rate. So like around here, I might be able to charge between $95 and $115 an hour for my direct hourly rate for my clients. Versus if you're going on a platform or going B2B, the most you might be able to see, the most that I've been able to get more consistently, I've gotten a little more than this, but typically you're looking at like around here anyway, $75 an hour. So that's a huge difference between $115 an hour going all the way down to 75. It's less pronounced if you're starting at 95. It's still a discount going from 95 to 75. But you might also, I've also seen 65 an hour to be a really common price point for any sort of hourly rate. But then other jobs could be billed per day and bid out per day. So there's a thing we call a day rate. So while I might be able to charge anywhere from $800 and $900 a day rate to my direct clients, if I'm going B2B or if I'm offering some sort of more favorable pricing to another IT company that I'm subcontracting the work for, a lot of that work this fluctuates, but I've literally seen it everywhere from $250 to $600 a day. So yeah, and it just depends. It just depends on a lot of factors. But either way, what we're both seeing in this case is there's definitely less money if you're taking work from another company. So they're taking what you do and they're just marking it up a little bit so they make a profit. And that's something you have to keep in mind. That's why you're not going to get like the biggest price out of them, because they're not your direct client. So one thing I've noticed though is if you have a good pricing system for travel fees, those tend to be universal. So you can charge whatever you want. I've had better luck with using a flat fee versus charging hourly, but there's different schools of thought. So in this video, this part of the video, we're not gonna focus on actual pricing strategies. We're just talking about some of the problems that you'll face when you're coming from direct clients to contract work. But either way, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is there are all sorts of companies that are farming this work out at different levels of the food chain. Almost never you'll see like a direct client like Walmart putting work for their stores out on Workmarket. But what you will see out on Workmarket and FieldNation are companies that do work for Walmart, like NCR. They handle all Walmart's point of sale. So you might see work directly from NCR. You might also see work from another company that's lower on the food chain that's subcontracting from NCR. So these are things to keep in mind. So the lower you go on that food chain, the less money there is the less money there is. Because Walmart's paying one rate for this work, NCR is taking that, they're dropping it down so they make a profit, and then they go down to the next company that makes a profit. So by the time it reaches to you, you might be anywhere from the third, fourth, or even fifth hop, I guess is the right word to use. But yeah, every single time the amount of available money for that work goes down, and the lower on the food chain you'll start seeing different patterns with pricing, and we'll talk about that. So one thing that I will say, that the lower the food chain that company is, the less favorable it is to do that work for. And they're cheap, so they will outright abuse flat rates for work that should be billed out hourly. You'll see a job that will wind up, if you take it, you'll probably be there for 2-3 hours, and it's gonna be dumb reasons why they're there, and I can tell you right now, they're probably billing them per hour. They're just not a good company, and I'm not naming names. I'm not talking about any company in particular. I mean, if I had to be completely honest with you, as I say this, about a dozen different company names are coming to mind as far as these lower run companies that will do this. But and that's something to keep in mind. So if you understand how to price, different types of jobs, you'll see something that's billed flat rate, and that's being offered at flat rate, and you'll know this company isn't going to be good to work for because I'm going to be there longer than I should, and I'm not going to make very much money. And so part of the reason why they get away with it is there's a lot of people that are new to contracting, and they haven't been explained. They haven't learned. Nobody's taught them. People get thrown into it. They lose their jobs. They go, I covered this in another video. Lots of reasons, though, why people go into contracting to begin with, and so they don't know what they're doing. And that's part of the reason why I'd like to do these videos, because I want to explain this. I want you to be informed, so if you're on one of these sites and you're negotiating prices, you know when to back away, because that's a trash company. Or it's a good company because they'll take your rates. And so, either way, here's an example of an abuse. So maybe they'll hire you for $150 to install 3 to 4 VoIP phones. Just for the sake of conversation, we don't know if they're pre-configured. We don't know if they have to do anything. We'll just assume they're pre-configured, but require activation. That's what we'll do. So 3 to 4 phones. Honestly, if they're sending a pre-configured phone out, it should be plug and play. But there are depending on the company that's providing the phone service, depending on who's actually sending you out, they may not actually be as simple as plug in and go. I've done jobs involving Verizon One Talk setups. So Verizon One Talk, those phones, after you plug them in initially, will require an activation process, and if it goes wrong, you have to call in and get some help on it. So I say that, and I'm using this example. I'm not saying this is what they're doing or that company, but again, this is an example of, so let's just say it's not that company. But anyway, let's say the instructions say that after you plug in the new phone, you need to call in to have them activated. And, that's a very realistic scenario. Maybe not with VoIP phones, but just roll with me on this. So you call in, and this is a busy help desk. It takes 20 to 30 minutes just to talk to a human. And so that's 20 to 30 minutes for a phone installation that should have only taken 5, maybe 10 minutes, just assuming that maybe you had to get a little help finding the person's desk. And either way, now all of a sudden that $150, and you still got 3 more phones to go, isn't a whole lot of money anymore. And so by the time you get done with all 4 phones, you've spent 2 hours on the phone, let alone probably another hour in actual work, showing up, introducing yourself, going to each desk, unboxing, all that stuff. And then you got paperwork afterwards. There's almost always paperwork. There's going to be sign-off stuff. There's usually a spreadsheet where you're documenting things. Again, this is why I'm saying, you figure if for a phone install between 5 and 10 minutes for an install of the phone, so just 40 minutes of actual work, of actually doing things. And so it starts to paint a picture to where if you're billing this directly, or at least per hour, it's a little better. So, but this is one of those things. That's going to be a company that's going to be lower on the totem pole, that doesn't have the budget that the company they're contracting from can actually offer somebody. They're probably getting a good rate to do the work. I guarantee you they are. But they're also a business. They're in it to make money, so what they have to pay you isn't going to be exactly what you want. But either way, other things can go wrong. Maybe you signed up for like 3 of these jobs, so you realize the first one was awful. You decide this next one, I'm going to just plug in all the phones, get all the numbers, and I'm going to make 1 call. And you might save a little time doing that. And so the problem is, there could be some potential scenarios. I'm not saying that this is what you'll run into every time, but in this hypothetical scenario, it has hypothetical, realistic problems. So, for example, you might find out that this is one of those companies that is a huge stickler on the rules and the processes that go in their work order instructions. So one reason that might be is because they know it's going to take you a long time to get stuff done. They don't care how little they pay you. They're just in it to make a profit. But you might be there for 4 hours. They're going to turn those hours in as billable time to their client, so that you might turn around and get $100, $150 for each one of these, and you're turning around billing their client $600, $700 for something that you should have seen quite a bit more than that. So if you're there for, again, the hypothetical 2.5 hours, then or 3 hours, we'll just go with 4 hours actually. If you're there for the hypothetical 4 hours, and if you're at, for sake of easy math, $60 an hour, that's $240 that they just chose not to pay you out of $600. They can pay that. And this is something that they don't bank on you knowing. So anytime you see a company that's using these shady little tactics for pricing, you have to watch out. So it's very worth mentioning. So a lot of these better companies, you can actually, you'll either see them directly putting work out on these platforms themselves. An example is NCR. We'll use them as an example. NCR will absolutely put work orders out on FieldNation, and I think I've seen them on Workmarket too. But simultaneously, there's a lot of work you can get, depending on how your company is organized, to be able to sign up for work directly with NCR. So that's where NCR is kind of not the best example. There's easier companies to sign up for work for, but still it's an example. And a lot of these companies that use those platforms are completely fine with working with text directly. So you'll just go to their website usually, and you'll find some sort of sign-up process. But in our next part of the video, we're going to talk over some pricing strategies that I have found work, and we'll discuss those in more depth. See you next time.